Hi guys, today's lesson is about accessory exercises. So, a couple of weeks ago we chatted about what a compound exercise is and why they make up the basis of our strength training. So a compound exercise is a multi-joint movement such as a squat or a deadlift. They're movements that use more than one joint. An accessory exercise is usually a exercise that only uses a single joint, like a bicep curl or a kick out, side walk, any exercises like that. So you can see how one uses a lot of muscle mass, a lot of muscle groups. It uses more than one joint. It's more of a functional movement pattern, whereas the other is an isolated movement. It's usually about one muscle. Usually we do compound movements first. And in the first couple of our workouts, we're mainly focusing on exercises that are the big primary compound movements. So there aren't many accessory exercises, but usually we put them after your compounds. If you're going to put them in a workout, you don't want to be doing them first, unless they are either an activation or a balancing and rehab exercise. Okay? So if you're doing an isolation exercise or an accessory exercise that is a activation, this is to fire up muscle groups before you begin. So this is usually to bring up either weak or lagging parts that aren't usually firing very well in your workout. So big examples of these are your postural muscles, so all your intrinsic core muscles and everything you use to stay upright and connected rather than your big compound stuff. And then also your glutes, your core and your mid-back. They're the big primary muscle groups that can tend to get lazy, especially from a modern lifestyle. So oftentimes we'll do glute activations like side walks or kickbacks or glute bridges as a glute activation exercise, particularly for your stabilization ones, your glute mids, as well as a primer for your glute max. We'll often do core, mainly transverse abdominis core activation. So that is your biggest stabilizer muscle for your big lifts like your deadlifts, your squats, and upper body movements. You want to make sure you've got your core on, otherwise you're probably going to use your low back. And then also mid-back, your postural muscles to learn to activate your mid-traps to make sure that you don't do movements in an internally rotated position or with humeral glide that comes forward and pinches on your joint. So learning to activate those ones are a primary activation accessory exercise. So hopefully you can understand why sometimes we'll do them at the start. Then balancing or rehab exercises. If you have an injury or an area that's tend to be underactive for a while, you may have been given by a physio or I might have recommended some balancing or rehab exercises. They're usually ones that are done as their own little routine or to prime you for your workout, okay? So that's another way you can use accessory exercises as rehab or balancing. This is also relevant if you have a very weak one leg or one arm. You might need to do extra accessory work to make sure that that area is strong. And lastly, so when we're doing our accessory exercises after your workouts, what I explained before is we're usually doing big compound full body movements and workouts. In the upper lower split that we're going to do from week 5, we're actually doing upper and lower workouts. So there's a big compounds at the start, but then I'm going to finish off with lots of accessory exercises. Now the benefit of these are because your central nervous system is quite taxed from doing the big compounds, you can actually incorporate these little burnout exercises. So something like a tricep or a bicep is not going to use as much central nervous system, but it can still get a lot of volume and blood flow and muscle damage if you're using it to continue on to help with muscle growth. So these are things, if you're using them for hypertrophy, which is muscle growth and size, then you can add in things at the end of your workout like extra sets, burnout sets, drop sets, everything like that. Hopefully that helps you understand a little bit more about accessory exercises and how they fit into your workouts.